Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach, and welcome to episode 222. Your book got published. Now what? This episode is timely because today, this would be April 3rd of 2025. I found out that my book finally got published. And I wanted to do this episode because I realized that whenever I have a project that is completed, like a book or an article or something like that, there's usually a couple of steps that I take just to make sure that I've kind of closed the loop on that project. So I wanted to talk about those steps I'm going to take today in case this happened to you and you complete a project and get a book completed. It's a great milestone. The book that I'm showing on screen is one I've talked about a lot on this podcast. It's called Productivity, Professionalism, and Parenting in Academia, Rec Comp Moms. It's a book I've been working on time use diaries and academic motherhood for almost 6 years, including data collection. The pandemic kind of threw it off, and there were a couple of things that happened just in terms of the way that this project came to be. And something I will totally save for another episode because certainly there's a lot that went into it. But I just wanted to say a couple of things about how I'm thinking about, well, what happens? I got the email from the publisher. In this case, it was Routledge that published it. And they said, hey, there you go, it's published. And of course, there's a few things that I need to do on my end to close the loop with them. But I started thinking about things that I need to do now, just in general, because the project itself is closed. What does that mean? So one of the things that I did first was, of course, I went and looked at the website. So I put that one on the screen if you're watching it on YouTube. And what I'm looking for here specifically is things that might be amiss, just in case. Like, is the description right? Is the title right? Does the table of contents link actually go to my table of contents? Like stuff like that, just to make sure that if your book's out in the world, that there aren't any errors, and there aren't. So I was really excited to see that. Another thing about it, just in terms of how somebody would actually buy this book, that was another thing that I just played around with for a second. Like, hey, if I wanted to get a copy for our library, how would I do that? I haven't published with Routledge before, so I didn't know that from past experience. So those were just some things that I did just to look around at that. Another thing that I did started to do, I left it because I wanted to show it on screen for YouTube. But another thing I started thinking about is once the project is published and it's in print, I don't necessarily need to think about this project in terms of my project management anymore, in terms of completion. So one of the things that has happened with this particular book is it's been revised a couple times. And what I'm showing on screen right now for audio listeners is my Asana board where I track all of my projects, conference presentations, scholarly articles, and books. And so this particular project, I can see I have a little like project tile, an area for the revision. I have one for a book. I have another, I know I have at least one more version of this book floating around in here. And one of the things that I can do in Asana that I like is archive projects. I brought one up on screen so people can see what it looks like, but there's one version that says it's archived. But I have another one that was the version for Routledge that is not archived yet. And why I'm doing that is that I'm able to then move projects that are archived to the bottom of my project list. So I can still see any notes or any things about process that I would want to know. One of the reasons I use Asana is because I can track all my project management steps and kind of leave tasks and things like that in there. So I don't want to get rid of them, but I'm going to move them to the bottom. So then work that I'm actually working on now will be, up and, kind of in the forefront. So those are some things that I'm doing there. Another thing that I will do is I do keep backups of what I call active scholarly projects on my desktop. I will get rid of those active folders and archive everything to a hard drive, to Google, and then I always email the final versions of things to myself so they could live in my email. So essentially, I've got like 3 backup locations just in case. Every once in a while, I'll drop a draft in Asana even to hold it there. And why I'm doing that is I'm backing up all the work that went with this project. But again, I don't need it right on my desktop for my laptop to look at like all the writing projects I'm working on. I don't need to see that folder for that project anymore. That doesn't mean the project is gone. So one thing that becomes a new project as soon as I have one project completed. Of course, we're always thinking about readers and to, spreading the word about this project. And so I'll do a separate episode at some point on just kind of talking about your work, how you're getting it out there in a way that's not annoying. You don't want to be out there, talking about your work all the time in a way that people are tired of hearing about it. So, there's definitely some ways that I will do that. I have not gotten to that point yet, since I just found out it was available for pre-order this morning. But one of the other things that I'm trying to think about with this book in particular is that a third step that I would say I want to do, in addition to kind of making sure it's all right on the website for ordering, and then kind of cleaning up all the places where this book is living as a live project to turn it into an archival project. A third thing would be, of course, I'm going to go ahead and thank some people. So I'll be sending a whole lot of emails about contributors that gave me some of their time use diaries. Also, people that worked with me for the editorial process and all that. So, my goal is to give myself sort of 24 hours to make some thank yous happen for that book, because once it's out in the world, I want to make sure I'm thanking people before, they may hear about it. So one of the reasons I'm doing this episode is we release on Saturdays. And so today is Thursday. So that's 2 days away. I want to make sure by the end of the day, Friday, I've thanked everybody that needs to be thanked, and so on. So those are just some things I'm thinking about with this project. One thing that I will do that's sort of a fourth thing that I haven't had an opportunity to do it yet, but one I'm sure will come, is that, when possible, I do like to see if this book is eligible for any awards. Is it of interest to any special groups that I should be reaching out to? I'll talk about that more in a follow-up PR type episode, but it is something that now that I know about it, that's kind of a project in itself, right? Like doing all the PR work for this book. So that's something that I'm going to need to look at and decide how I'm going to want to tackle that. But not today. Today is a celebration day that I'm sharing with all of you. And speaking of books, I also want to talk again. I've mentioned that the next couple episodes at the end, I'm just going to say one very brief thing about the Textbook and Academic Authors Association Conference. And one of the things I want to talk about that I think is really, really cool is, I just put this on screen, but at the conference, if you decide you want to do it, so I put it on screen, there's a link in the show notes. It's June 6th and 7th. It's all virtual, so you can get all these kind of tips about writing. But one of the things that's really fabulous is they have something they call a conference bookstore. And so you're able to actually put your book in the bookstore and have it be known to people. So what I have on screen right now is everybody who has given them a book to have it in the bookstore. And all you're doing in terms, if you want to have this, if you want to have your book featured at this conference, it's only $50. So it's a really low, I would argue, kind of a low way to get your book out there, and it will stay on there. But you can link out to the site. So all the books in here, as you can see, some books like, Publish and Flourish, which has been around for a long time. And you can also see newer books that people have completed. I see one in here that I'm really interested in that talks about how to create happiness at work and some evidence-based strategies to enjoy your day. Like, that's a book I would have not had any idea about there, but I was just kind of combing through this Textbook and Academic Authors Association. So all kinds of books are in here. And the other thing that I think is really cool about this is it just shows the wide variety of our scholarship. So super cool. If you just look at the TAA conference up there at the toolbar, there's a toolbar thing that says bookstore. And on that page, it tells you how, if you want to promote your book and put it up here for $50 just to get lots of eyeballs on it, I think it's a great way to do it. So if you have any feedback about that, or you want to ask anything about the TAA conference, I am happy to pass on word to them. You can contact them directly. They have a contact us link, and you can also email me at Christine@defendpublishedlead.com. Finally, one of the last things I want to say in this episode, in addition to the sponsor, is that at the end of the semester, we generally run some coaching specials for bulk purchases of coaching hours. So if you're interested in trying out writing coaching, if you buy several hours, you can get a pretty cheap rate, because what you're doing is reserving some of our coaches' time. So we don't talk a whole lot about doing coaching hours with us on the podcast, but just because of the time of year that it is, we generally run this sale from April 1st until June 1st, where hours are pretty discounted if you buy a lot of them for a project and they don't expire. So if you're interested in setting up a free consultation with me to talk through what you might need, you can always email me, or you can go to Defend, Publish, Lead. And if you open up that homepage, you will get a button to schedule. So it just says schedule a free 30-minute consult, no strings attached, and we'd love to hear from you. Happy writing this week.